We all have our own views on origin and destiny. Where do we come from and where are we heading? That is the question. For a number of years, there was the so-called war on terror, and concerns surrounding climate change and population control have been and continue to be the dominant theme. We now have a virus, having mutated, is causing havoc in the world. Apart from God, who is in control? Does the rule of law exist? Why do I say apart from God? Simply because Jesus knew these events would happen and told us that these would be the signs of the end times. Are we not witnessing them right before our eyes? Winston Churchill said, "In wartime, truth is so precious that she should always be attended by a bodyguard of lies." After the First World War in 1920, there was an attempt to create a one-world government through the League of Nations, but failed. It took a Second World War to successfully set up one. The United Nations was created and founded in 1945. The Rockefeller Foundation played a big part in the transition from the League of Nations to the United Nations. Since then, the non-governmental organizations, NGOs, have become more involved in society. They have become more involved in our lives. NGOs are believed to play a critical part in developing society, improving communities, and promoting citizen participation. Whilst this sounds good in one hand, the freedom and the power that comes with it can also be abused. In most democratic countries, the rule of law dictates that no one or even the government should be above the law and abuse their powers. This is why there are separation of powers. In the words of Lord Acton, power tends to corrupt, and power corrupts absolutely. The growing world population have become a threat to the wealth of some of the multi-billionaires and to the climate. They have become so paranoid that they are taking extreme measures to deal with them. In the name of philanthropy, they set up foundations where generous donations are made in pursuit of their agenda, including the non-binding United Nations Resolution Agenda 21, which suggests ways for governments and NGOs to promote sustainable development in terms of population and climate control. This has now become a new religion, a form of worship at the World Economic Forum, the worship of this planet, the worship of the so-called Mother Earth is being achieved at the expense of humanity. There is also the Great Economic Reset, which is a financial reset yet to come. Today, the rapidly changing world is deeply divided in many ways. The biblical truth in Daniel chapter 12 of the Bible states that knowledge shall be increased in the last days. Indeed, it has. People have polarized views and beliefs just about anything political. There is politics in many aspects of social life. No doubt, science is not exempt from politics either. Why do I say this? It is believed that genetic medicine has many different applications, such as gene editing, rapid vaccine development, immuno-oncology, and treatment of rare genetic and undruggable diseases, all of which are usually hindered by nucleic acid delivery inefficiency. That is as far as medicine goes. Just look at some of the scientific achievements and controversies that goes back at least 50 years ago, and you will see that the biblical truth is emerging. In 1969, for the first time, a group of scientists led by Dr. Jonathan Beckwith isolated a single gene from the bacterium E. coli. Scientists now had the tools to manipulate genes and to improve upon models of life. The fields of biotechnology and bioengineering were born. Dr. Beckwith and his Harvard colleague, biologist Dr. James Shapiro, called a press conference not to promote the technology, but rather to warn against its mishandling. Dr. Beckwith said, We didn't want people running away with the idea of being able to manipulate genes. He said, we were worried about the technology being used for profiling people or intervening in the human genome. This was a warning call in 1969, which fell on deaf ears. In the 1970s, with the advent of sociobiology of Edward Wilson, it was thought that genes are the central motivators in animals' struggle for survival, that animals are likely to reproduce offsprings that will inherit their survivalist tendencies and physical traits. This paved the way for more research into this. Concerning the rule of law, the actions of the NGOs and private enterprises are hardly scrutinized. So in essence, they are above the law and they can do whatever they like with their money. One example is when scientists are applying for grants to research something as per their proposal. Grants are hardly given because they have to go through rigid ethical scrutinies. But once private money is pumped into research, there is no scrutiny. So whatever research is proposed, good or bad, it's still being funded. In the 1990s, a study of gay siblings provoked social and scientific controversy. In a 1993 paper, American geneticist Dr. Dean Hammer showed evidence that a region on the X chromosome is associated with male homosexuality. But several studies failed to confirm his finding. The announcement in February 1997 of Dolly the sheep's birth marked a milestone in science, igniting a debate concerning the many possible uses and misuses of mammalian cloning technology. About 20 years ago, American geneticist Dr. Francis Collins, known for his landmark discoveries of disease genes, led the International Human Genome Project, costing about $3 billion. In 2003, his work culminated with the completion of a finished sequence of the Human DNA Instruction Book. In 2004, the same controversial Dr. Dean Hammer claimed to have found evidence of a genetic influence on religious beliefs. In his book, The God Gene, he described a study of over 1,000 people, which he said showed that the VMAT2 gene was correlated with increased levels of spirituality. While the claim generated media interest, the science behind it has been criticized as weak and unconvincing. There is also a video presentation to the Pentagon a year later about how the VMAT2 gene could be targeted by a vaccine called Funvax in order to reduce religious fundamentalists in the Middle East. Today we have a pandemic and instant coffee-like jabs are being administered. We are seeing nothing short but confusion, chaos, fear, and a world being led in a concerted way. A well-coordinated agenda to fulfill the visions of the extremely rich. The next agenda is the term called Fourth Industrial Revolution, popularized by none other than Klaus Schwab. Richard Kelly, the author of Constructing Leadership and the Fourth Industrial Revolution, published in 2018, talks about how future leaders will need to be developed in different ways to prepare them for organizing a new reality in the 5 major technological advancements, namely connectivity, transhumanism, machine intelligence, dataism, alternative energies that are connecting consumers together in unique ways and changing customer behavior and organizational decision making towards networked collaborative ecosystems and swarm leadership. Swarm leadership is a phenomenon in which no one is in charge and yet all leaders follow the same principles and rules to accomplish more together than any one leader could alone. More than 5 years ago, American Policy Center President Tom DeWeese has described Agenda 21 resolution as a new kind of tyranny that, if not stopped, will surely lead us to a new dark ages of pain and misery, yet unknown to mankind. Ask yourself the question whether this is happening already. Just look at what the father of instant vaccination is doing. He is backing scientists from Harvard University with the development of sun dimming technology that would potentially reflect sunlight out of the Earth's atmosphere, triggering a global cooling effect by spraying calcium carbonate dust into the atmosphere, a sun-reflecting aerosol to reduce the effects of global warming. Critics believe that such science can cause risks such as extreme shifts in weather patterns. In his new book, How to Avoid a Climate Disaster, Bill Gates explains what it will really take to eliminate the greenhouse gas emissions driving climate change. In an interview with MIT Technology Review, he suggested that all rich countries should move to 100% synthetic beef. How do you guard yourselves against lies and delusions that all these things are good for humanity? Lies were being told since we were born, and in schools they teach you how human beings came from apes and that we are still evolving. And these lies have been ingrained in our worldview. Lies are being told daily, and society reacts to it. Mark Twain said, "A lie can travel halfway around the world while the truth is putting on its shoes." It is easy to believe in a lie than it is to believe in the truth. At Davos in January 2020, an atheist history professor, Yuval Harari, has warned humanity faces some existential threats this century. One of the threats is that the AI revolution might create unprecedented inequality, not just between classes, but also between countries. Alongside inequality, the other major danger we face is the rise of digital dictatorships that will monitor everyone all the time. This danger can be stated in the form of a simple equation. He said, B multiplied by C multiplied by D is equal to AHH, which means biological knowledge multiplied by computing power multiplied by data equals the ability to hack humans. This is a grim reminder of Genesis chapter 11 ideologies about 6,000 years ago, in which mankind said, "Let us build us a city and a tower, whose top may reach unto heaven, and let us make us a name, lest we be scattered abroad upon the face of the whole earth." And the Lord came down to see the city and the tower, which the children of man builded. And the Lord said, "Behold, the people is one, and they have all one language. And this they begin to do. And now nothing will be restrained from them, which they have imagined to do." Therefore God confounded their language, and they were scattered all over the world. This is how humanity survived this far, because of the diversity of government, the diversity of language, race, etc. Empires have risen and fallen, as recorded in the book of Daniel, but humanity survived. The book of Revelation describes how everything is going to converge, leading to a one-world system of government, finance, and religion, and eventually to the end, where the whole world is burnt and decimated when the Lord Jesus himself returns. I choose to be a Christian because of the truth and how the Bible connects with the reality of this world. Only us Christians who have insight are able to see the preparatory work being carried out for the rise to power of the Antichrist because of the prophetic warning given to us around 2,000 years ago. The Apostle Paul wrote that perilous times will come, and the Lord Jesus himself gave us a list of things that will happen towards the end times. He calls this the birth pains, such as pain suffered when a woman is in labor. Is this pain starting to be felt now? If this does not open your eyes to accept the truth and to seek God with all your heart and soul, then you will forever drown in the slimy juice of your ignorance.